What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Get a smash on that like button if you can. You know, things are getting really interesting. I feel like we're in the biggest transfer of wealth. We're witnessing all of this happen right now. I think this is the most exciting time to be alive because what we're seeing all business models essentially being challenged. Some will do well, some are going to cripple. And I think a lot of them are going to cripple. But I think that this moment right now is this moment where we could all make so much money if we just tweak the way that we see where things are going. At least this is how I'm looking at it. I see certain business models, like, for example, online business models that look like they're going to do really well. But then other businesses, for example, brick and mortar retail, restaurants, these are going to get challenged, in a big, big way. So in this stream, I'm going to talk about where I see the biggest opportunities, where I'm investing my money, and what challenges I see for most pockets in the market, and where the biggest opportunities are long-term for myself. I just filed today. I'm hiring an attorney. It's going to be a real estate fund, a Reg D 506C. We're going to raise money. It's going to be unlike anything that has ever been done online. And it's going against the tide. Like all the big guys, all the big real estate guys that we all know on social media that raise money, it's basically the complete opposite of what they're doing. But I think that I have a better mousetrap. I think that what I'm doing is going to be, unlike anything that's ever been done before. And I think it's essentially I'm shorting the real estate market. I'll talk about that in just a second. But right now we're seeing what's going on with the stock market. Confidence is slowly being pulled away. Over the last 6, 8, 10, 12 months, people have started gaining a lot of confidence in the U.S. economy, thinking that we're going to be returning to normal, and everyone's just riding the wave. People have done extremely well. Stocks, crypto as well. But now it looks like there could be some big problems on the horizon, and we're starting to see some pullback. I think that is going to continue. I think we're going to see a bigger and bigger pullback in the coming, I would say, next couple months. I think the next couple months are going to be where we start to see some real fear. It's interesting too is this two-tier society that's being built in places like New York, LA, San Fran, New Orleans. I personally believe that this is going to go national. And I think that this is not going to leave any market untouched. So what this does for like the big corporations is this is an amazing opportunity for them. I've talked about this before, but even companies like Amazon that are literally stepping in and they are reinventing businesses that they just destroyed. Like we've all heard today that Amazon is now getting in retail. So they're going to have retail locations. Okay. So what they're doing, JC Penney, Macy's, all these companies that are, either in bankruptcy or bankruptcy protection, these companies are going to get wiped out and Amazon stepping in. But what Amazon is going to do that's going to be unlike anything that these other companies have access to is if you look at Amazon Go, their stores where they have no employees, everything is done by weights and sensors. I believe they're going to do that on a bigger scale. And with these retail locations, they're about 30,000 square feet. They're just starting with two. I believe one's in California. The other one might be I think it's in Washington. And what I think that they're going to do is they are going to allow refunds and returns to occur in the store. And I believe they're also going to be able to use these locations. They already have a FDA approval on drone delivery. So they can deliver packages that are 5 pounds or less within 5 miles of their location. So they literally can have drone deliveries, and they're working on autonomous vehicles. So what they're going to be doing is going to be very hard for mom and pop businesses to compete. And if you think about the amount of data that they have on every single one of us, what our shopping habits are, what upsells and downsells they can offer us, I believe that Amazon is going to grow in a huge way. And I think that this whole situation that happened over the last 18 months is something that greatly complements the big corporations and destroys small business. And it seems as though that these big corporations are getting more and more incentivized to do just this. And interestingly enough, all the content that we gain over everything that's happening in the world right now is through these very corporations that are benefiting. So when I'm looking at my overall investing strategy, I'm asking myself a couple things. One, where do I see the world in the next 5 years? 2, where do I see the dollar in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? It's like one multi-trillion-dollar stimulus package after the next. Do I trust the dollar? And 3, where is going to be the safest hedge against everything? And what assets can I buy that I can move around with? And ideally, dual citizenships in different areas and being able to move around and navigate. These are like the very important things that matter. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been thinking about a lot of this stuff because everything I would have thought, if even if I had some inside info on what was to come, I wouldn't have believed how fast the world could change. But you just look at our spending habits, the way that we are even connecting with one another. That this is a really big thing that's happening right now. Is when you walk into a store and you can't see if the person next to you is smiling at you, then that changes the relationship that you have with small business owners and really your overall experience going out and shopping. So what's that do? That incentivizes you to, you don't get that dopamine grab when you're going out there and not connecting with people. So you're just going to spend money online. So where I see this going with stocks, first, I think like Amazon, like another company that I have money in right now is Coupang. It's based out of South Korea, but they're expanding to Singapore and Japan. It's very, very much like Amazon, but it's different. But I think that these companies overall, from like a money-making perspective, I think they are very likely to generate a lot of capital. And we're seeing a lot of companies like BlackRock and Vanguard investing in Coupang. So that company is not making any money right now. It's like actually losing money. So this is not something that you're going to be able to buy and make money in a year or 2 years. I think it's something, a 3 to 5 year plan is what I'm thinking. But I put 25K in the company, and it's kind of like rolling the dice on it. We'll see what happens with it. Please smash that like button. Now, with this company that I'm launching, this is a huge problem that I see, and this is how this company is going to solve it. So a traditional real estate fund, what they generally do is when they're raising money, like a Reg D 506C, which is with general solicitation, where it's accredited investors only. Now, what these companies do is they'll raise money online, they'll allocate the funds and deploy it into assets they think that they can either increase the rents, they can add value in some way, shape, or form, do something to drive a return to the investors. And then at that point, then they'll be able to grow and scale and build out a large company, right? And obviously the fund manager does quite well, and so does everyone involved. The ideal situation in that chain of events, though, is that you could do a cash out refinance, meaning, let's just say for easy math, you buy a building that is $20 million, and you buy this building, and it's a value add. So you can increase the rents, you can manage it better, you can clean out the landscaping, you can do a bunch of different things to increase the NOI, the net operating income on the building, right? And so ultimately, you want to do a cash out refinance. You can get a bigger loan out on the property. You can pay off your investors, and you can either sell the property at a later date or just hold on to it for cash flow. But that's a general idea. What's really worked well over the last many decades. But this is where I see things differently than a lot of people. Is that I personally believe that rents are not going to be able to climb at the continued 3% rate, which we've seen in most areas, most markets. If you're in LA or San Fran or New York, rents have grown much greater than 3%. But the landlord tenant laws are horrendous for people that are looking to invest in, a value add real estate fund. You're not going to go to those markets. Now, where I see the opportunity is the biggest problem right now is single family homes in forbearance. So they claim like 1.75 million homes are in forbearance, which that number, I believe it's honestly much greater than that. I think it's a much bigger number than 1.75 million. In August of 2020, they said 40 million people at this point will be subject for eviction or foreclosure. 40 million. That was a year ago. Now they're saying the number is less than that. How could that be? When more and more businesses now are, they went through their period where they thought they were recovering. Now businesses are starting to get more scared because there's new requirements that are coming in. I personally think the number is going to be in excess of 40 million, right? This is where I see things going. So where I think the big opportunity is this real estate fund that I'm doing that's different. So what this business model is raise capital and buying properties at like 40 to 50 cents on the dollar. But here's the kicker. These properties, the homeowner was about to be foreclosed on, right? So the homeowner would have a 2 to 3 year window where they can come back, they can get a job, they can clean up their credit, they can qualify for a mortgage, come back and buy the property for the price that we paid, including transfer taxes. So like any fees or anything associated with the sale. They would be able to come back and buy the property, right? So they get to live in the property, they don't move, they don't destroy their credit or get into a ton of debt. They literally just do a transitional period and they can come back and buy the property. Now the fund makes money off of rent, off the rental income coming in from the fund. So, and if the market dumps, which I think it's going to in the next year or two, there's no way it does it, right? So if the market dumps, then a couple things actually work out. One, that the idea of buying the property back isn't as really desirable for the homeowner because they're like, hey, this is market value now. If the market dumps 50%, this is market value. Maybe I can get a better deal somewhere else. And that's fine because the investors that invested in that fund are now deploying their capital into something that, dumped 50%, but they also bought it for 50 cents on the dollar. So they're still in the clear and they're receiving rental income. And so the price points that we'd be targeting would be somewhere between 100 and 300,000. So like very small price point properties. So for an example, let's say the property is 150K and they owe 50 or 75K on the property. Come in, buy the property. They would then pay rent, which would be the market rent in that area. We would just pull comparables, very simple. They pay that rent, they live there, then they have the option. So that is pretty much like how it's going to work. But this is where I see things happening. So in recessions, when things get really bad, banks pull back. So they're saying, you know what, we're going to be really careful on who we lend to. So when people go through bankruptcy and they go through a very traumatic financial situation, they're going to be very unlikely to get a loan for many years, 5-7 years possibly. So what this company will do is actually save a lot of people from going through that. Ideally, nobody wants to go through that. That's just the obvious thing. Nobody wants to go through it. But what alternatives are there? If they could sell the property now, this is one option. They could sell the property now and they could make a lot of money. That's actually a really good option. But the problem then becomes is that if they did not, if they were not employed the last 2 years, they're going to have a hard time getting financing. So they're going to get a block of cash. They're then going to take that cash and they're going to have to rent an apartment. Then Biden is going to print, and not just Biden, but the way that the world's going right now, they're just going to print one multi-trillion-dollar stimulus package after the next. And so as they do that, what happens? The value of the dollar falls. So if you're sitting in all dollars, then you're basically, if you ever seen that the Facebook movie when they diluted, I think it's Eduardo Saverin's shares, they diluted his shares to almost nothing. That's what's happening to a lot of savers. So if you're going to sell your property and just sit in all cash, it's not really a good situation. So someone said you're leaving people in the homes that they were foreclosed on. How are they going to pay the rent if they couldn't pay the mortgage? That's a really, really good question. So this is, and yeah, thank you for that question. So this is the difference. So when they can't pay the mortgage, they're paying everything on the property, but they're also incurring a lot of fees. They were tricked with this forbearance program. They were thinking that, hey, some people say, well, they're going to do a 40-year term. They're going to push it to the back end. They have to qualify for that. So if they lost their job entirely, then they would not qualify. So if they have a big payment due, a $20,000, $30,000 lump sum, or even a $5,000 or $8,000 or $10,000 lump sum, they couldn't come up with the money. That is completely fine. They would be able to sell the property, stay in the property for a rental payment that's going to be much less in most situations than their current mortgage. So they'd be able to stay. They could even bring in, a relative. They could bring someone into the property and try to split the rent, do whatever they can do. But it would at least give them a grace period to try to find a solution. And that's going to be the problem that landlords right now, we've seen it all across the really all mainstream media. What they're doing is that landlords are increasing rents. And that is what is very likely to happen, especially as you have these BlackRocks and Blackstones and KKRs, these big companies running out there buying all the single family homes. They're going to keep increasing their rents and people aren't going to be able to save for down payment. So where I see this going is I think that we're going to have another set of closures come in the next 2 months. And if that does happen, then what we're going to see right around holiday time, which is going to be horrible for small business because that's when they make most of their money with tourism, with travel, with simply just gifts and shopping. How do small businesses make it if they lose the holiday season? We see what's happening overseas. It seems as though that's coming here. So I think the best investment right now is finding unique market segments that make sense, that are going to be durable over the next 5 to 10 years. So I think real estate, if you have the right plan, I think real estate is good. I think stocks could be very risky in the short term, until we have further clarity on what's really going on. But I think real estate is going to be a really, really, really good one. Also, gold and silver. I'm going to be purchasing a very large position in gold. Not position meaning I'm going to be taking full control of it. I'm going to be putting it in a very safe location, possibly outside of the United States. But I was going to buy some today from my bank, and they wouldn't give me the size that I wanted. They wanted to give me very, very small portions, which I don't want to do. So gold, silver. I'm also buying an aircraft. I was under contract, but the deal fell apart, and now I am buying another one. But hopefully, it's contingent on them purchasing another aircraft. So they were purchasing an aircraft initially. It fell out of escrow because it had a lot of problems. Now they're trying to buy a different one. When that one gets under contract, they do their pre-buy inspection. At that point, then they're going to train for, I think he has to do like 10 or 12 hours in that new plane because it's a twin engine aircraft. And then I'll be able to take possession. So hopefully I can take possession of that plane in 30, 45 days. But that will be a Beechcraft Bonanza A36. So in about 2 to 3 weeks, I should have my private pilot's license, which is intentional for this very reason, because I have a feeling that we are going to need certain credentials to travel, to fly, to do all that. And I've been planning for this for 5-6 months now in terms of like the private aviation and learning all this. I'm like studying probably 4 or 5 hours a day. Yeah, bank selling gold. Merrill Lynch, my private banker at Merrill Lynch can get it, but they're only able to get certain size bars. Like if you wanted to get like a 400-ounce bar or like a 100-ounce bar, which are expensive, 100-ounce bar is like 180 grand. A 400-ounce bar is about 720 grand. But if you wanted to get one of those, the 100-ounce bars they will not do right now because the margins are very slim. On the smaller pieces, they'll sell them to you, but because the margins are better for them. But on like a 100-ounce bar, the margin's very small, so they're actually not selling them at the moment. But Chase Bank won't do it either. What is my take on crypto? I think crypto does a couple things. It does something big for us, but it also does something very big for them. And what it does for them is it gets us all used to a digital form of securing value, which is essentially what they want to do with the new credential that we're going to be, that's really being pushed upon us, is that they all want us to be in a digital world. And so crypto does assist with that. But, my big fear with crypto is that they allow it to have legs and let it do really, really well in the short term. And then I think it's just going to be basically covered with more regulation to give them a bit of control, because I doubt they want to be number 2, because nobody else, everyone I know would rather have Bitcoin than Fedcoin. So, but I do think that Bitcoin does have a place. I do think crypto definitely has a place, and I think crypto will do very, very well. But I think a lot of like the altcoins will go to zero. A lot of them. I think, Bitcoin and ETH will do pretty well. But my position here for people that are, thinking about investing in Bitcoin is, if you have to worry about if the price is going up and down, then you've invested too much. Bitcoin is very volatile. Crypto is very volatile. So don't invest a figure that you are worrying about and stressing out about. So be very simple in your investing strategy. So like my strategy right now is my fund, which I'll be off the ground probably in the next 2 weeks. All the disclosures and company formation, everything will be done in about 2 weeks. So the fund, the airplane, I'm buying a ranch, gold and silver, crypto, and cash. cash not as much as I'm sitting on now. Now I have way too much, and it's frightening because when we look at how much money they're printing and how expensive the world is getting right now, it's just crazy. I had my cell phone bill coming today. It was $221 for me and my wife. Everything's just going up. Everything, food. I'm sure you guys are realizing it too. I went out and got a smoothie about a week and a half ago. It was $14.98 for a little 20-ounce smoothie. Like, this is absolutely insane. So cash is going to, unfortunately, probably be trashed the next 5 years. I'm thinking about going into business for myself. I found an awesome product. I think going into business for yourself is, I think it depends on your character. It's not going to be for everybody. Some people are just destined for it. I think having your own business now is really important. I think having financial freedom and having mobility is going to be more valuable and more important than ever before, just because you want to be able to be flexible and move around and call your own shots, because employers nowadays are calling a lot more shots now. We've even heard of employers saying, hey, look, you are working from home. Now, if you want to come back to the office, or if you don't want to come back to the office, you're going to be taking a pay cut. They're going to start doing this more and more. What I think they're going to start doing is they're going to start outsourcing a lot of their talent in India, in Asia. They're going to start outsourcing. They can hire very, very smart, intelligent people there, and they have lower cost of living than we do here in many areas there. So they're going to be able to hire very smart people. So I think this whole work from home situation was good for the short term for Americans, but I think long term, for example, my whole team is based in Germany, right? If I were to hire somebody, and before this team, I had someone that was working in India that was doing a lot of work for me, and he would edit a full 2-minute video for Instagram, and I would pay like $5 for it. And if I were to hire someone in America, it would probably be $40 or $30. So I think we're all going to start seeing more and more outsourcing. So if you can go into business for yourself, I would. But just think about, for example, look at this video I saw. People think this is like CGI, but this is basically the world that we're going to be stepping into with, let's see here. You guys seen that? That's the world we're stepping into, and all that's happening right now. And in the name of safety, we're going to start seeing more and more jobs be replaced by robotics and technology. Boston Dynamics, Miso Robotics, these two companies alone look like they are going to take away millions upon millions of jobs. Then we start looking at the self-driving vehicles and everything that's happening right now. That's why I think this is the best time to be alive, is because there's so much opportunity. The entire way that we've really lived in this world is all being changed right now, right before our eyes. And how we spend our days, what we study, who we hang out with, all this is going to have a great impact on the level of success that we're going to have over the next couple of years. And that's why I'm so focused right now on just reading, getting around good people. I'm launching this real estate fund that I think has a lot of promise. I think it's going to produce great returns. And I also want to invest in a lot of robotics companies, because I think that is definitely the future. Did I get my farm going yet? We tried to buy the farm in Texas, and for some reason, I think the agent didn't think that I was. I don't know. She didn't think that I was a serious buyer and wasn't going to actually fly in to buy it, because it's in a very remote area in Texas. She wanted me to fly in to look at this property and bring my wife and baby and rent a car and get a hotel and do all that, just to look at the property before writing an offer. And I was like, well, how about I just put the offer in and I'll look at the property, during the inspection period. Why am I going to fly out there twice? And long story short, the deal didn't happen. So I'm still looking. Hopefully, I'm going to get something in that general area. But I like Texas a lot. I got off the grid. Yeah, off grid. I think honestly that's an ideal situation. You could buy land. If you're going to buy land with a natural water source is key. And for me, I'm going to be a private pilot in the next couple of weeks. Being able to land on site. So if I can land on site and have natural water source and food on site and be remote, I think that's a really cool alternative. And if things get pretty crazy in this world, then that's a great place to be. And if not, I could always rent it out. I could have events there. I could do a lot of different things there. So I think that thinking and being prepared is going to be very rare, because I think we all live in a world where most people want to see I heard a really good quote, and it said, smart people see things for how they are, and everyone else sees things for how they want them to be. And I have that problem with myself, like being around people. I'll ask them certain questions and they'll think that, oh, that's crazy. I'm like, it's happening right now. But it's not crazy. It's just crazy to you because you don't want to see it. But this is why I think that this moment, the next 1 to 3 years, will define, almost everything that we become. Because this 1 to 3 year period, it's changing so fast. We look at how fast the world's changing just on a day by day. The next year and a half, 2, 3 years, this is why I think that it's smart to be bold right now. If you have something, if you have someone mentioned here, hey, I got a really good video idea or a business idea, like run with it. Like, what is the worst that can happen? Like, what's the worst that can happen? I remember telling one of my friends, this is like 10, 12 years ago, hey, I wanted to work with this real estate company. They do like $10 to $20 million deals. But I'd have to leave this current company that I'm at. And these deals are much smaller, but they're more consistent. And he's like, hey, look, I would take a chance of doing $10, $20 million deals because what you have going on now is like basically nothing. I'd rather split, because at that time I'd have to partner up with another agent. He's like, I'd rather have 50% of nothing than 100, or 50% of something than 100% of nothing. And that's right now, I think, what now is. Great to see you going live, John. Hope the aviation. Yeah, aviation is going really good. I mean, I'm just been studying a lot. I'm first solo, I think, next week. I just have to get signed off by the Sarge, I think, Monday, Tuesday. And then my first solo will be next week. But I'm really looking forward to that because I think that travel is going to be really a pain going forward. We see almost every day on TikTok and Instagram all these crazy things that are happening on flights now. It's like, it seems miserable flying or traveling commercial. USB all digital. Yep. How does a small business compete in a digital age? And that's what you have to think about. When they have your data and information, like imagine you pull up into a McDonald's drive-through, and then they know just from your scan of your eyes. This is like a crazy theory. Just a scan of your eyes, what the last thing is you bought, what you consistently buy, and your name, how much you generally spend, and what upsells they could potentially sell you, what downsells they could sell you. And they're preparing the food with Miso Robotics equipment. Like, their costs are basically nothing, and they're gonna make more every customer. And it's going to be bad for Bob's Burgers or like one of these small burger restaurants. And that's what I think is going to happen to traditional restaurants. But on the short term, what's going to happen is a lot of these mom and pop restaurants, these businesses are going to be going out of business because of the new requirements for people to enter. It just doesn't make any sense. I was having a conversation with a good friend about an hour ago. I'm like, how does a small business stay in business with less customers, higher wages, higher taxes, and higher cost on goods, services, and more restrictions? He's like, oh, no, more people are going to step up, and they like their comfort. They're going to step up and all get it, and and then it's going to return. I'm like, no, after they get it, there's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 more, and it's probably going to continue. And I think there's going to be more resistance and less customers, and bigger commercial companies like Amazon and a lot of the big conglomerates are just going to gain more and more market share. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't think that it's like, oh, you just do this and then everything goes back to normal. No, I think that we're stepping into the eye of the storm. And that's why, like, a lot of my videos that I've been talking about here on YouTube generally have been about the problems. And it's not because like, I'm negative or, It's really not. It just comes down to like pure logic. Like the stock market doesn't make any sense. The real estate market, they're printing so much money. Rates are essentially zero. Rent is optional. Mortgage payments are optional. Like all bills are optional. Biden's like paying off people's student debt. Stimulus or unemployment has been extended for 53 weeks. People are making more money not working than working. Like how can someone say, "Oh, the market's hot. We should be flipping houses or investing"? How how do we even know the true state of the economy when they take away all of these welfare payments and this whole entire system? If they do, everything would collapse. If they raise the interest rates just a point, purchasing power from the buyer of what they could actually qualify for from a loan, that would fall, home values would follow, and we would see a huge crash. But at this point, they're simply just printing. Rates are zero and debt is optional. Like it's insane. It's not something that can be long lasting. And that's why, when I'm talking about stuff on this channel, I'm not saying like, oh, invest. Like, you need to invest, but you need to be smart about it. You can't buy the mania. Right now it's mania. It's mania out there. In Italy, if you don't get, so that's exactly what I'm Scarlett, like on the money. That's what I'm saying. That's what's going to happen. And when I'm saying this stuff, it's like a lot of people agree. A lot of people agree, but a good chunk of people disagree. But this isn't like what I want. This is just the truth. And I'd rather just be honest with myself and with you guys than live in a lie. And that's what's going to happen. There's going to be a third, fourth, fifth, and it's going to continue. And that's why I think small businesses are going to get hit really hard. And I think that there's going to be a huge welfare society that is being built right now where people don't want to work. Because honestly, what smart person would want to work for more money or for less money when they can get more money hanging out with their friends? That's what we're being conditioned for right now. And that's why I'm actually taking the complete opposite approach than all the big real estate guys that are all buying multifamily real estate right now, that are all buying in because debt is cheap and the dollar is basically going to lose a lot of value, as we all probably know, over the next couple of years. So they're running out there buying hard assets. But what I think happens is as incomes fall, so will those rents. And when those rents come down, they're buying them at 5-6% returns. When those rents fall, if they fall 10%, 12%, 15%, and vacancies increase and there's more and more evictions, what happens? They can't hold on to the buildings. And then what happens? They go back to the bank and BlackRock takes them over. That's what I think happens. That's why I'm not running out there buying all this multifamily real estate saying, buy multifam. I'm sitting there thinking, where do I see the world going? Well, I think there's going to be a handful of conglomerates that basically own everything. The middle class is going to really, really get stiffed throughout this entire thing. And if you're really smart and strategic, then you can build out a moat of safety and security for yourself and your family. And if you're not, and we live in this false sense of reality, then it's going to be painful. That's what I think is going to go about it. How do you even know the true state of the economy? Really good question. Nobody really does. But what I do know, because even like 2008, I still think is not over. I think they just printed us out of it and they just kept stimulating the economy and hiding the truth. If we actually went to a place with, very, very limited stimulus, everything would completely collapse. If banks tightened up on lending right now, that would bring everything back. That would really, really bring everything back to reality. There'd be less home building. There would be less really buying of properties. Valuations would fall. More cash buyers would step in and be competitive. It's a real, real big problem. Buying gold. Yeah, I'm buying gold. And I'm going to just store it. Definitely, if you're going to buy gold, you need to take possession of it. You don't want to buy gold and then put it with a third party. You want to buy gold and have full access to it. Like Peter Thiel, the Palantir. This is a really good example. This guy's in software. He does all big projects for Big Brother, all over the world. And now he's taking gold and crypto, gold and Bitcoin exclusively, and the dollar. But he just brought those two in. It's very interesting. Why would a software company do that? And why would Sam Zell, he's probably top 5 most people that I admire in the real estate market. Equity residential. He owns, I think he's number 3, biggest landlords in America. He said, we're stepping into a welfare society. And over my career, I've always said, don't buy gold. It costs money to store it and it doesn't produce passive income. Why would you buy it? Now he's buying it. He said, we're stepping into the 70s. And if you look at gold's chart between 1970 and 1980, it was a parabolic move. That was the same time that the dollar left the gold standard. And that's his position. He's stocking up on gold, right? It's interesting, right? I think he's smarter than I am, so I'm going to do the same. I'm going to follow that trend. I think that gold is going to hold value very well over the next 10 years. I'm literally getting a suburban home ready to purchase, remote property, small community far from big cities. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to do a video on that. Like, I have my wife literally sending me listings every single day. Like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? The problem is with those remote properties, you want to make sure it's going to be something that you can move into almost. Because if it's so far away, it's going to be a pain doing like a rehab or a remodel and bringing a crew out there. They literally would need to bring like an RV and live on site at the end of the property. Would I get another citizenship? Yeah. I was thinking about actually getting a Mexican citizenship, but my good friend, I mean, this kid, I've known him for like about 20 years, like 17, 18 years. I know this kid forever. And he's a professional poker player. And all he does is play tournaments on Sunday. He does these tournaments and he has like a coaching team, but he's always killed it. He's really big into Bitcoin and crypto. And he lives in Mexico. And what he says now is that you can't enter a 7-Eleven, you can't buy water, you can't do almost anything where he is without the phone, if you know what I mean. So you can't do any of that stuff, right? So what he's saying is now when he's walking on beaches, that he is getting followed by drones, and the drones are literally telling him to cover up. Like it's insane. And so he's like, dude, I'm going through like a big state of depression right now because like I don't want this to be true. And it's like, yeah, we don't want it to be true, but how can we all make money? That's the end of the day. Like, how can we all make money? Because the world's going to be changing and it's happening. We're stepping into this period where the world's changing rapidly. What moves can we make to build out security? Because Jack Dorsey, all these big guys are not going to be living under that rule. So if you're smart with the next 1 to 3 years, then there's options there. You might be able to, to move around and pivot, but probably have to be worth, 9 figures. I think that'd be worth a lot of money. Please smash that like button. You hit the like button, YouTube's going to share the content. And ideally that's, here's my dog, Rocky. That's the ideal situation. We can educate more people, wake more people up as to what's really going on. Crypto is not for new investors, small investors right now. The market is going to crash soon, but for the past few years, it skyrockets every December. Wait until the crash. Interesting you said that, because I have a couple friends that made a ton of money in Bitcoin, like a ton over the last year, and they actually all sold out in the high 50s. And I'm like, oh, when should I buy in? Because it seems like every time that they buy and sell is like the perfect time, and they've been doing it for like the last several years since I've known them. And they said, you want to wait until nobody's talking about Bitcoin, and that's going to happen very soon. And then when that happens, then you run out there and we'll unload the truck on it. And that's basically what's my plan is. Right now, I think that we are going to probably see a swing up, but I think that they're right, and I think that we are going to see a crash in crypto. If you look at the big swings from 2017 to what it did, I mean, it always has these massive corrections, and I think that that's going to be coming soon. All the markets are crashing soon. 100%. I fully agree with you. That's why I think gold that you can store, assets that are going to hold value, for example, like an aircraft, for anybody that's actually interested in that, it's really not that expensive too. Like if you guys are interested in, hey, I have a family or I want to be able to travel, you can get your private pilot's license. Like where I'm going is like 15 to 17,000 for the actual licensing. And then you could buy a plane. If you wanted to get something like very inexpensive, you get like a Cessna 172S for probably, $50K, like the price of a car, you could probably get it for. The plane I'm going to get's more than that, but I have a wife. I have another baby coming in like 8 weeks. So I have 3 people plus myself, 4. I have 2 dogs, and I want to be able to bring some stuff around and bring a friend or 2. So I'm going to need a 6-seater. So I'm going to be getting a Beechcraft Bonanza A36, but it's still not that expensive. Uber plane rides. Yeah. So I would, let's see here, take the leap of faith. I'm not, like someone said, like I sound like an alarmist. I'm really not. Like I'm actually extremely optimistic. I think that the big opportunities are in front of us and they're not currently available right now. I think we're going to be stepping into a world of a ton of opportunity. I really do. But right now, we're just not there. Stocks are still high. They're going to start falling more and more and more. I think if we get told in the next month or two that things are going to start closing again, you're going to start to see a lot of fear hit the stock market. That would be a good time to potentially enter some positions. But right now, I mean, I just bought some Amazon a couple of days ago. The companies that have real strong fundamentals and the companies that are going to do really well, it doesn't matter. You can continue just decreasing your buy-in position. So you can just buy in as the price falls and just lock in a really good rate. A lot of people have made a lot of money in tulip. Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of cryptos will fall. I do think a lot of cryptos will fall, but I do think that some are going to do extremely well. But unfortunately, for me, if I were to sit in a room with 10 people that are all in crypto and had a real conversation about blockchain and crypto and stuff, I don't think I'd be the smartest person in the room. And so I take that into consideration when I'm putting my money on the table. I invest I invest in things that, like, for example, put like 10% of my cash in things that are a little bit more risky, that offer massive upside. And the rest I'm very focused on, growing that nest egg. Don't forget, a decent boat and airplane can be purchased for less than the average luxury vehicle. That will change when the collapse happens. Yep. But see, the thing is, for example, John, for my strategy for the aircraft, the plane that I'm going to purchase is $380,000. And so my second YouTube channel, you guys can, I think I have the link here, or you guys can find it right in my about section. If you guys subscribe there, you're gonna see all the stuff that I'm doing, like all the stuff in my personal life that I'm doing there. And it's on my. You can click I think you can even click the about section in this video. You'll be able to find it. But I'm going to be buying that aircraft. I'm going to put 20% down. I'm going to finance the rest. So it's about $300,000. I'm going to finance the rest at 3.8% interest. And then what I'm going to do is that second channel is going to be mainly about aviation, what I'm personally doing with my friend and family, making money, and off-grid, all that stuff. I'm going to be talking about there. But that plane is going to be a write-off on that channel. I'm going to even do like interviews and podcasts and stuff while I'm traveling. So that aircraft will be a tax deduction and a write-off. So I'm going to be borrowing the money at 3.8%. I think that we're going to see the dollar fall by a lot more than that. So for me, I make the spread. If the dollar falls by 10% a year, at this rate, it's possible. If it does fall, even at 7 or 8%, I still make the spread. So if it's 3.8% and it falls by 8%, the dollar falls by 8%, then I still make 4.2%. So I make 4.2% plus a tax deduction, plus it's good for my business, plus I'm able to travel and use it for recreational activities. So for me, it makes sense, the aircraft. Yeah, I'm going to. I was just under contract and it didn't work out. I'm buying a different one. Robotics, definitely. That's the other thing. Like robotics too. Like I look at robotics like I do altcoins. There's going to be some firms that do extremely well and really take off. But if I were to sit in the room with a bunch of engineers talking about robotics, I'd probably shut up and just listen to them because I'd learn something. And the same would be true with talking with a lot of people that have been, in crypto for a decade plus that understand a lot more than I do. I would just listen. Best state in the U.S. to live right now for conservative families. I'm in Florida right now. Florida, Texas. I personally think that Florida and Texas do have an expiration date. That's my fear. That is my fear. Right now, it's being sold and packaged as, the place for freedom and that things are going to be great here. But I do think that isn't going to be long lasting. I do think that that if things get bad the next few months, that they're going to start seeing a lot more pushback and those values could change. So, yeah, that's my position. So I would, if you're going to buy real estate right now based upon political positions, then I would, hold on one second. Then I would be extra, I would be careful because you take that risk. if things start changing because a new governor is elected or somebody else is elected, then all that changes. In Georgia, I think it's one of the best states. Wyoming, you can go to Afghanistan. So right, old school. Yeah, that's my position. So I wouldn't base an investment right now based on, but that everyone else would probably disagree with me. They would say Florida's the best. Florida's the best. I'm in Florida right now, and I'm seeing more and more restrictions coming by the day. So I'm seeing that happen. So if that continues to happen, then how long can Florida maintain that position? It's not feeling like how Florida feels right now versus how it felt 2 months ago. I would think I was in a different state. That's funny, Carlo. Yeah, I have a sheepdog. Tennessee, I don't know about Tennessee. I thought Tennessee, but I've read some pretty crazy stuff. I read some pretty crazy stuff happening in Tennessee. But I think, honestly, just being in a really remote area and just teaching your family with the right values, giving them the right values, the right fundamentals, getting in a good group, I think that's really important. My wife is in a group with all families that see things just like she does, and she's more than happy, and I'm happy there as well. Buying Oklahoma, Florida, Utah is very remote. I haven't been to Utah actually. Good to stay away from the city. Yeah, I just sold a property in LA. What day is it? 2 weeks ago. I just sold a property in LA 2 weeks ago, and yeah, I'm happy that I did. Yeah, I sold it literally just before all the new restrictions started coming in. I don't think that LA is going to be able to maintain those high rents with the restrictions that are going to be coming in, especially with Gavin Newsom right now. He signed this is like 10 months ago. He signed something into law, SB 1079, that allows the state of California first right of refusal to buy foreclosed properties. So he's actually incentivized by people having financial hardship because you can run out there and buy their properties for pennies on the dollar with all the money that's been handed to that state from Congress. So you think about it, he's sitting with a war chest of cash right now, and the citizens are basically being bled out. So that's what I think. No, I mean, how I have it structured is literally I just get paid on Venmo. I had to pay Venmo payments. Everybody would contact me exclusively through email. I had like a welcome letter. They would go through the welcome letter. If they had a repair request, they would follow certain instructions. If they needed something else, they'd follow different instructions. And the emails would come in and then they'd be sent to the appropriate person. It'd be handled, and I'd be out of the equation. But I never handled, like, I was never into any of the direct communication with the tenants. Here's my son. You guys can meet him. Hey, Jonathan. He brought me coffee. Oh, thank you. So crazy how fast I grow up. He is 19 months old now. 19 months old. I'm gonna take him and my wife out to dinner right now. He's excited. I'm gonna take him out to dinner. Subscribe here. Consider subbing on my second channel as well for all that stuff in my personal life and what I'm doing there. And I'll catch you guys in the next live stream. Please smash that like button as well. If you want me to do more lives, drop it in the comment section. I'm going to read the comments later. All right, guys. See you in the next one.